Hey, what's up, guys? All right, I like to start these things kind of slow as we let the video populate and get into people's feeds and let you guys jump in over here. Obviously, for all of these live streams that I've done for Patreon, we usually were doing them, or for the years that we've been doing them, we were doing them behind the Patreon wall. So the link was only going out to patrons, and patrons were asking me questions, and we weren't making these public to everybody. Last month, we decided to make them public to everybody, but only patrons could ask me questions. So this obviously is going out to my full feed. So actually, we're about to cross 900,000 subscribers, I think today, probably. So I'm psyched about that. There's a ton of stuff I'm super psyched about at the moment. That being said, we've got a lot to talk about related to the Sargon of Akkad Patreon situation and sort of the subsequent fallout from that and where that leaves a whole bunch of us business-wise, where it leaves what I'm doing with you guys and everything else. So I'm going to take plenty of questions here, and I'm going to be as open and honest with you about what I'm going through right now and what I think this Sargon banning means in the wider world of platforming and deplatforming and the rest of it, and sort of what I'm thinking my future should be related to all of this and how we can keep doing these things and keep them hopefully fan funded, but that there's a lot of other options, and that generally just what the hell is going on right now. So, okay, so let me just start slowly with what happened. If you don't know what happened, here, let me tell you what's going on. If you've been under an internet rock for a couple days, about 5 or 6 days ago, Sargon of Akkad, who's a big YouTuber, has about 800,000 subscribers. He's been doing it for a long time. Was banned on Patreon. Now, quickly, for those of you that don't know Sargon at all, Sargon, when I started years ago, let's say 5 years ago, when I started really realizing that something was rotten on the left, and I saw how that was so connected to free speech, and then I saw the rise of these social justice warriors who were hysterical and wanted to silence everybody. And then I started, all of this was leaking into what I saw was happening with the progressive movement. When I started talking about that on YouTube, everybody was saying, you've got to go talk to Sargon of Akkad. You've got to talk to him. He is the guy that has been sounding the alarms on this thing. You got to talk to him. Anyway, I did end up talking to him on his channel. And I tell you that because he was sort of the first one of the liberals that was like, guys, what's going on with us? We're not acting liberal anymore. And then, of course, that leads to everything that I've talked about over these couple of years, right? Like the left is no longer liberal. The progressives have purged their free thinkers, and it's become an authoritarian movement that is against liberalism, which is rooted in the individual and live and let live attitude. Okay, so Sargon is not a nobody. He's not just some random YouTuber. He's actually been in this studio. I've interviewed him. His name's Carl Benjamin. You might be interested in finding it out. Eric Weinstein had an interesting comment on Carl that he told me the other day. He said he's sort of a blue collar intellect, which I think is actually a great compliment. It's like he's not a pure intellectual, like, you know, that is studied at all of these universities for years and years and went on to become a professor and the rest of it, and a published author, etc. But he knows these ideas in and out. But he's blue collar in that he's a regular guy. He's a bit of an admitted troll. He likes fighting with people online. He loves meme makers. He was sort of born out of Gamergate, all of those things. Okay. The point is the guy is not a racist. And here's what happened. Or as far as I know, the guy is not a racist. But let me tell you why he got banned. He was banned because Patreon found a video a few days ago from 10 months ago, from February of this year, on another channel, not even his channel, where he was being interviewed over audio with someone, and the guy's not a native English speaker, so there's a little bit of stilted conversation. And Sargon says the N-word. I think he says it at least twice. Now, he was saying it because he was trying to use the language of the alt-right against them. He was mocking their use and the way they think about certain people based on the color of their skin, okay? So I even said, so now let me back up for a second. So when I found out that Sargon got banned, I immediately texted Jack Conte, who is the CEO of Patreon. And I've had Jack in this studio, okay, right across from me, where this computer is, basically. He sat there. And that was when Lauren Southern was banned. And Jack Conte said that we do not ban people over speech. We ban people over manifest observable behavior. MOB, mob, You can't make that up, people. Mob. Okay, that's what they ban people over. Mob behavior. Irony. Yeah, what is that's not even irony. It's so ridiculous. It's not even irony. Anyway, he used my platform to say what his company's policy were, and they were not about banning people over speech. Also, he had made a point of saying, and it is in their terms of service, that it has to be an infraction that occurs on their platform. So in this case, not only did Sargon not say the word on their platform, it wasn't even on his YouTube channel that he's promoting for Patreon, right? It was on someone else's channel, a small channel with like 4,000 subscribers in this case. So this went against all the terms of service. They booted him without any warning and no chance of appeal or anything like that. And people are seriously pissed right now, and I get why they're pissed. I'm pissed. And on all the last 3 days, I mean, this basically, I've had a lot going on these last couple of days as I finally ended the tour with Peterson, although we're continuing again in the new year. But we taped like 5 shows in the last 2 days. We're finishing seriously strong for the end of the year. We got some great stuff coming. But this has taken every other moment of my life because this is a direct, not only is it related completely to free speech and everything that I talk about constantly and what's going on with these platforms and these companies, but it's also directly related to my business. So just FYI at the moment, we've lost about 500 patrons, and that's been, I think it's around $5,000 or $6,000 a month that we've lost. Now, most of the people have messaged me and said, I'm really sorry, Dave. I love what you're doing. This has nothing to do with you. This is a stand against Patreon. Now, the funny thing here is that I'm actually at one level, I'm very inspired that these people are you guys, right? You guys are just like, you know what? Fuck this. I can't take this shit anymore. We have known this is coming. These lines of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable keep moving and moving and moving. And Sargon, I don't know everything about the guy, but if this guy is the type of person that cannot be on a platform, then half the people I know probably can't be on a platform, and that may include me, and that probably includes you. So we keep letting these things move. Again, it doesn't matter what you think about Alex Jones, but you take out one. It's not like when they take out one person, they're like, we got one person, we're good to go. Let's pack it in, guys. Let's find a new hobby. It's like, oh, well, who can we keep moving? Who can we keep moving? Who can we keep moving? And the thing is, when I started my Patreon Hangouts today, so this is the day that we do the rewards where I do these small Google Hangouts with people. Right before I started, you can look at my last tweet or 2 tweets ago, Vox, that awful steaming pile of poop that is Vox, which is funded to hundreds of millions of dollars a year, yet is obsessed with a couple of YouTubers, wrote a piece where they're calling a whole bunch of us, once again, the usual suspects, they're calling a whole bunch of us alt-right and reactionary right and the rest of it. And it's like, man, well, you keep doing that, and then eventually, why wouldn't these platforms boot us? So I have a vested interest in having this thing stop because eventually it's going to come for me. And by the way, if you like the things I'm talking about, it's probably going to come for you too. So I'm oddly inspired on some level that people are kind of standing up and they're saying we're not going to put our money to companies that don't support what we believe in, or at least respect free speech and whatever else. And then at the same time, I'm taking a business hit, so I'm not sure what to do. So let me just throw out just one quick little promo thing here. If you can go to Dave Rubin, not if you can, if you'd like to, go to daverubin.com/donate. You can donate there and keep the show independent. We are 100% independent. I am my boss. I am the CEO of this company. We have several employees now. The morning that this all went down, we just actually flipped one of our part-timers to a full-timer. I'm super proud of what we've built here. We've built a great community beyond just the conversations we're having, all of that. I've traveled the world this year and met thousands and thousands of you guys. It's all good. It's all good. And if you want to help us keep it independent and you're not happy with what's going on Patreon, you can go to daverubin.com/donate. You can do a one-time donation or a monthly donation, PayPal, credit card, doesn't matter. Okay, so that I just wanted to say that because a lot of you guys are asking me. I spent the last couple of days really, really, really trying to figure out what to do about this. I wrote a statement that I almost published where I was going to announce that I was leaving Patreon. I was going to do something nuts. I mean, a normal person in business doesn't voluntarily kiss 65 or 70% of their monthly revenue goodbye. But I was going to do it because I really thought, like, we're not going to get many more of these moments. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like you don't want to swing too early when something's happening. You don't want to swing too late. You want to swing right at the right moment, but we don't know when that right moment is anymore. These bans and these shadow bans and algorithmic nonsense. It all seems so arbitrary and ridiculous that we don't know when it is going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's very possible that right now there's a Google engineer watching this right now going, oh man, I hope he will just slip up and say something, say the word that Sargon said so I can give him the boot too. I mean, we just don't know what the hell is going on here. But I do know that the CEO of Patreon sat in my studio and said, this is about behavior and these are about things that happen on the platform. And either he changed or he lied to me or he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I'm not even making this up to throw Jack Conte under the bus. Being a CEO of one of these companies probably sucks. And every day you're just under assault from social justice warriors who want to destroy another human being. And by the way, this is permeating society at every level right now. The Oscars can't even find a freaking host because they had Kevin Hart and then apparently he said faggot and now he can't host the Oscars. I mean, everything is just nonsense and drivel, and we must stand up against it. And I think you guys are getting a little bolder in standing up against it. I meet people who are starting to get more engaged. I think people are realizing it's coming to all of our doorsteps if we don't do it. And again, as I say every freaking week, I'm just some guy. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not a superhero, but we've got to get better at this. We've got to get better at organizing and fighting this. Anyway, what I've realized is it would not be wise or make any business sense to just kiss 70% of my revenue goodbye and hope that a whole bunch of people are going to go and donate on my site. There's a lot of things I want to do on that end to fix things. But what I would say is at the moment, if we can migrate as many people from Patreon and new people over to daverubin.com/donate, it will give me the leverage I need to do what I think is right. That being said, what you can do it or not do it, it's all good either way. We'll figure it out. And I'm not sitting here like cry me a river. I want to solve this problem. And I can't get into all the conversations I've had about this, but many of the people that that you know and admire, who are friends of mine that have been on the show and all that, they're thinking about what to do too. Like everybody is. I think I can say that much. Everybody is realizing this is a escalation of this. That if we let this guy go down and we don't make anything of it, it's not about him specifically, but if we let another person go down who doesn't deserve to go down, it's coming, and it's getting bolder every time because nobody stands up to it. So we got to start standing up more. So I'm happy to take any of your questions on that. I'm happy to take a whole bunch of questions on a series of things. And we'll figure it out. I mean, look, there's lots of options. I've had ad agencies reach out to me in the last couple of days and they're asking me if I want to start reading ads on the YouTube show. You know, I don't really want to do that. But maybe that is a safer financial route than going fully fan funded. But I love being fan funded. Like I'm free. I'm truly free. You know, I'll just tell you guys, like we get Patreon is our #1 rev source. We get YouTube rev, which is obviously all over the place. And then we do have ads on our audio podcast. The only other thing that we've ever had in terms of revenue, you know, a little bit on merch, whatever. The only other thing we ever had was we had that partnership with Learn Liberty for 2 years, which we ended in June. They wanted to continue it actually. And I just felt like we could try some new things. So I am talking to some other nonprofits about maybe doing some other things on the side. But you know, that's what our revenue streams are. So maybe there are some other ways we can do some other things. One other silly thing on revenue, just because I think this will help frame a little bit of this for you guys. So, you know, we had Shapiro and Peterson in here on last Friday. And the video, as of last I saw, has around 1.1 million views. It's a 2-hour video. I think it's one of the best things that we've ever done in this studio. I think we got the best out of Ben, the best out of Jordan. I think we covered new ground. We went deep on religion. Talked about differences and similarities. And I thought it was really excellent. It operated at sort of a very high bar. There were moments where I had to sort of dumb it down because I want regular people to be able to understand these things too. Anyway, 2-hour video, over 1 million views. The average watch time on it, last I saw, was about 40 minutes, which is obscenely high for YouTube, right? Like think about the last time you watched a 40-minute video on YouTube, right? What do? You watch a kid fall down, you watch somebody get hit in the nuts, you watch a cat, and then you watch a 10-minute chat, and then whatever else you watch, and a little basketball, whatever, somebody playing video games. Okay. So that's an incredible amount of content that people are watching for a long time. That video, last I saw, had generated, I think, around $5,000. So Now think about that if that had been on CNN or just anything on primetime. 2 hours of where 1 million people were watching. Now, to give that a little context, NBC Nightly News, they tell you, I think, averages around 1.4 million views a night. So basically that video got roughly, or by the end of this week, let's say, will have the same amount that NBC News gets on any given night. Think about the revenue that NBC News generates from all the advertisers that are, they probably are making millions of dollars that night. That video made us $5,000. So the economics of this whole thing are all out of whack too. And I think that that's also causing some of the tension. Anyway, that's why we obviously are on Patreon. And again, I'm not saying any of this to cry me a river. I'm just saying it because I'm trying to be as transparent as I possibly can be with you guys as we're at a strange crossroads, which is also sort of funny or odd for me because this has been such an incredible year. I mean, I did about 100 stops with Peterson. I started doing stand-up again. We're selling out all these clubs. I just got back from a gig at University of Wyoming, 300 great young people, conservatives who are happy to talk about ideas. And when we did the Q&A, we had people come up first who disagreed with me. So I'm feeling so great about everything. The show's grown. We're going to cross 900,000 subscribers today or tomorrow. There's so many good things happening that it's just great. So it's kind of funny now that we're ending the year on this odd note relative to the business, which is so relative to the core issues that we're talking about platforming and free speech and everything else. So anyway, that's all that. I have a feeling I'm going to have about a gazillion questions about all of this stuff. So let's see. When is Musk going to kick off his version of YouTube? Could it be called DarkTube? I don't know. You know, I've never been connected with Elon. Obviously, we have a couple connections in our worlds, but we need somebody to get in on this. You know, I think there's been some chatter from the billionaire class, but it's like, we need you guys. If you happen to be a billionaire and you're watching this right now, hello, you can email me. It's right at daverubin.com, contact. You'll find it. Okay. I will follow you to PayPal or anywhere else other than Patreon. Just announce where to go and I'll follow you. You do good work. Well, thank you very much. It's just daverubin.com/donate, and you can do monthly, you can do one time, whatever it is. What are the IDW members willing to do about solving the issue versus hoping someone else will do it instead? Fans leaving Patreon, me too, before the end of the year are taking action. Where is the action from our thought leaders? What a great question, right? This is what it's all about. Like, one of the things that I've said repeatedly over the last year is that I don't want these conversations just to remain conversations. I want to figure out how to put these ideas into action. How do we get politicians elected that maybe believe in some of these things? How do we get the Democrats to return to liberalism, let's say, which by in turn would then maybe make the Republicans a little more moderate, something like that. We're all talking about it. I just can't. I can't tell you the nature of all of the private conversations, but what I can tell you is that everyone that you think might be thinking about this is thinking about it and trying to figure out what to do. And it's like, we all have different considerations, right? We all have different businesses. Some of us are professors and authors. Some of us are on speaking tours. Some of us are generating more rev through YouTube. I mean, we're all trying to figure out. Some of them aren't even on Patreon at all, but understand the gravity of the situation. So everyone's trying to figure it out. Just try to be patient with us, which sucks too, because it's like, man, the more patient we are, we're just giving room, right? We're just giving room for these guys to come in and swoop down and knock out the next one. And it's like, the more hysterical these what's acceptable to be said is. So like, you know, if you misgender or dead name, I had never heard this phrase dead name before. Now, if you dead name someone, meaning if a trans person goes by Allison, but their old name was Andy, if you call them Andy, you could be banned on Twitter. I mean, these really, really, really Orwellian speech codes, they could come to get anybody, either because someone's making a joke, or, you know, in a case of, let's say Shapiro, it's like, facts don't care about your feelings. I'm going to say what I think, related to how many genders there are or whatever else it is. So it's a mess, and trust me, we're trying to figure it out. Okay. Let's see. Plans for John McWhorter to come on the show. Also, will you wear chapstick if I ship you some? My lips are always dry. I got those. Can I get some chapstick in here? I'm going to put on some chapstick right now. A little chapstick would be nice. They're a little dry. All right. Get a little chapstick in here. Hey, Dave, just subscribed to your website. Thanks for the critical work that you do. Thank you very much. chapstick. Apparently, this live stream is brought to you by Burt's Bees. So there you go. All right, now I've got moist lips. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Here we go. I feel like there's groupthink in television. I hear the pundits united in one agenda and saying practically the same thing. So are the heads of studios in charge and the people on television, and thus the people on television willing to say what they are told in exchange for money, status, fame. Are the people. Look, I try not to judge people's motives. So I don't know when it's funny. I was in the gym the other day. I never watch CNN anymore because it's just painful. It's just drivel, endless Trump, Russia, drivel. You will not get smarter. You will get dumber watching this. But every now and again in the gym, it's on and I'll flick the channels and I'm like, all right, let me just pause and watch this. I don't know. Like, do these people intentionally ask the stupid questions? Do they intentionally conflate and confuse the issues? I don't know. Are some people more opportunistic than others and just want fame and fortune? Sure, I guess, that's probably true. Are some people probably not that bright and maybe that helps them succeed in a talking head world? That's probably true too. So yeah, it's why people are tuning out of these things. No one's paying attention to these things. And in a way, that's why they're cracking down on so many of us. I mean, think about it. Why is Vox, again, today, and it's not the first time they've done it, writing an article that basically is trying to link me and Shapiro and Lacey Green and a couple others to the alt-right? It's like, you know why they're doing it? Because they're threatened by this. So Vox, which is tuned to, like $200 million worth of VC money, is worried about what a bunch of upstart YouTubers are doing, because you can see we're getting all the clicks, we're getting all the views, we're getting all the retweets. And it's like, go right now. Go look at, let me pick something that's hot. Do this test for me and someone can comment on it and I'll read it. Look at BuzzFeed or Huffington Post's last 10 tweets and then look at my last 10 tweets and tell me which one has more traction. And there's no doubt that mine do. And a couple of mine are just promotions of this, which isn't the type of thing that gets a lot of traction. But I guarantee you, if you were to add all those up, mine will be way, 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 way bigger. So they've had it with other interesting people who don't think like they do, getting clicks and views and making people have conversation and having people be enlightened instead of drilled down to the point of stupidity. So yeah, it's a mess. Admittedly, you have learned and grown from speaking to a variety of people. You said that your interview with Larry Elder changed your viewpoint about systemic racism. Has another guest fundamentally changed another point of view? That's a really good question. When I came back last September, when I did that off the grid thing, not this past summer, but the summer before that was the first time where I did the August completely off the grid. And when I came back, I had said that although I'd always sort of, or at least for the last couple of years, I had thought of myself as an atheist, that I didn't really like the term. I didn't like the word for me. It doesn't really capture what I am, because I don't have a sort of lack of belief, but I do believe in something that I can't quite explain exactly what it is. So I just didn't want to use the term atheist to explain it anymore. I can tell you that in the last year, having these conversations with Shapiro and Peterson, and I just had a great conversation yesterday, it'll be up next week, excuse me, with Bishop Barron, who's been on the show, who's from the Archdiocese here in LA, and with Rabbi Wolpe, who's the rabbi at Temple Sinai in Beverly Hills. We had a great conversation, which I thought would be perfect to do right between Hanukkah and Christmas. By the way, I also had yesterday, I had Imam Tawhidi on. That'll be up next week. So my last 3 interviews with a rabbi, a priest, and an imam walk into a gay podcaster's garage. There's an old joke. But I would say I've been moved on look, this is like I could end up doing 3 hours on this thing. But I've been moved on a certain value of religion. It doesn't mean everyone has to be religious. I'm not religious, but a certain value in belief of sort of an unmoved mover kind of thing. I've seen Jordan in these 100 or so shows that we've done together really stretch his knowledge on this and really explain the value of these stories, and that there are certain ancient truths that can't be that not every truth that exists can be empirically proven, or that science and logic alone aren't enough to explain all of the driving forces that make us human and make us love and hate and all of those other things. So I would say that's one that I'm sort of evolving on, which is actually kind of cool. And it's also like a very much an affirmation of, that I'm doing something good for a living, because I don't mean this to be sappy or sarcastic even, but like I sit across from people every day that I can learn something from. And if I can just keep my mind open enough to learn something, or even hear something that I disagree with, and then that makes my belief reinforced afterwards, that's pretty cool too. So I would say I'm evolving on some of that stuff. I think it's a great conversation. I think the fact that so many people are thinking about it, that we can do videos on the nature of reality and the nature of truth, and can you get value out of fact alone? The fact that people care about this, and not just a couple people, but millions and millions of people care about it. I mean, that's pretty awesome. Do you ever get confused with David Rubin, the author? Also, do you have a book in you? So first off, that's hilarious. I was on Tucker Carlson last night, and before me was David Rubin, who is a former mayor in Israel. So a lot of people were confused because I was like, I'll be on Tucker Carlson tonight. And then they tune in and there's a guy, David Rubin, older guy, white hair, in Israel. That was not me. Also, do you have a book in you? So yeah, you know what? I'm just going to do it. We signed my book deal, finally. It's with a big publisher. I'm super psyched. I don't know that I can fully say everything, but I'm writing it right now. It is going to be the most difficult thing that I have ever done. That is very obvious. I'm trying to get seriously, deeply personal and not just political. But the deal is done. The advance has hit the checking account. And I'm psyched to do something that I think will be real and relevant, and it'll be out months before the 2020 election. I want to get, because then it's like they're just going to put out political book after political book, and it's just going to be awful. So I think it's going to be out in in the spring, probably March or April of 2020. I know that seems like a long time from now. I have to have the manuscript in by August 1st. And it just takes time. It seems weird in this world of like such quick stuff happening all the time, and live streams and all this other stuff. But yeah, it'll be out then, and I'm psyched, and it's going to be a lot of work. But what else am I doing? Are you ever worried that your platform on YouTube can be completely taken away? Yeah, I mean, yeah. Like, how can I watch the tea leaves change? How can I watch Sargon be booted from Patreon, and other people be booted from Twitter, and people be kicked off YouTube, and some people get reinstated, and how can I watch all of these things happen and not think, oh man, it could come for me? Maybe not even because of something I said. What if I had a guest on who went on a crazy racist tirade? Well, we know what Vox would write about it. We know what BuzzFeed would write about it. And then eventually we know what the trolls would do, and they'd be flagging. And then eventually YouTube may be like, you know what, enough of this headache. So that's why there is a technological answer to this. Maybe there's a blockchain-based video site coming up. Maybe people need to use more crypto to support the creators that they like. But I think whatever you guys can do in your life to fight back, whether that's talking about these ideas or protesting if you do it within the confines of the law, or or not using services if you don't like them, which is why, as I said earlier, I'm watching my Patreon money drop, and I'm kind of inspired by it, because it's like, at least you guys are doing something. And by the way, some people are going to my site. They're not just abandoning me altogether, but you're going to lose, you know how it is online. It's like you're doing one thing, next thing you're doing 10 other things, or looking at another video, and like you just forget. So you're like, oh, I canceled this. Let me go over to daverubin.com. But then by the time you get there, you're already playing video games or something, and you just forget it. It's just how it is. So it's daverubin.com/donate. But of course I'm worried about all of those things. I think we don't have an organized voice. We don't have a sensible plan fully yet. I mean, I think there's a lot of discussion about what should happen and how do we fight this thing, but I don't think we've solved it yet, and we got a lot of work to do. Do you get criticized by the LGBT community for associating with or interviewing those of faith that disagree with homosexuality? So, yeah. I don't know what the LGBT community is. It's funny when people talk about the Black community or the LGBT community. I mean, that's the type of collectivism that I don't like, because within those communities, of course, you're going to have a truly diverse group of people, meaning all sorts of people think differently. You're not going to believe this, but Black people often have different thoughts that have nothing to do with the color of their skin, and gay people often have different thoughts that have nothing to do with their sexuality. I'm not commenting on you specifically, person who asked me this question, but I do it too sometimes. I'll say the community, and then I'm like, what does that really mean? You can get general trends, let's say, out of the community. Yeah, I get shit from, did you see this article in Deadspin the other day? There was a title. The title of the article was "Gay Conservatives Should Shut the Fuck Up." Think about that for a second. The title of the piece that was tweeted out: "Gay conservatives should shut the fuck up." These are A, supposedly the tolerant people, and B, these are supposedly the pro-gay people, right? These are the lefties. We're tolerant and we love gays. We love minorities, but they don't. And you really need to understand that. They love you if you bow. That's it. They don't love you because you're gay. They love you as long as you'll behave. They're not for women. To say you're for women, everyone's for women. It's meaningless to say you're for women. I want everyone on this earth to be treated equally under the law and live with a sense of dignity and hopefully find something that they're passionate about and live the best life they can live. I'm for women in that I want women to be part of that. But to say you're for women, are the women who run the Women's March, are they for Nikki Haley, who I think is a spectacular woman? She's the former governor of South Carolina, who was the U.S. representative at the UN for the last 2 years, and maybe one day she'll be president of the United States. She happens to be a brown woman in that she's Indian, but she's a Republican. Are you for Nikki Haley? You're not for Nikki Haley. You're not for Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You're not for women who disagree. So to say you're for groups is actually ridiculous. Related to the gay thing, well, it's interesting because it's like I never get, not that anyone cares about the gay press or the Advocate or Out or any of those things anymore. Nobody reads them anymore. But it's like you'd think that maybe they'd write an article about me because I am openly gay and I'm doing this and people seem to care about it, right? Daily Wire just did a really cool interview with me that I was really happy to do. So it's not for lack that I wouldn't want to talk to these people, but Out or Advocate, I forget which one, about 2 or 3 years ago wrote a piece that Peter Thiel, who's also openly gay, who spoke at the Republican National Convention before Trump accepted the nomination. He went up there, he said, "I'm a proud gay man," and got a standing ovation at the Republican National Convention. That was very underreported, by the way. You can't imagine why. But Out or Advocate wrote an article saying Peter Thiel is not gay because they've decided that your sexuality isn't your sexuality, it's how you behave. How, if you are in line with their political beliefs, then you can be gay, but he's not gay because he votes for people that we don't like. I mean, think how that's actually offensive. Like, it's hard to offend me, but that's actually offensive. What I can tell you is this, which is much more inspiring than what I've just said, is that on the last year or so, where I've done 100 stops and we were in probably 15 different countries, and people coming up to me in Helsinki and Stockholm on the street and Amsterdam at a store and everywhere in Kansas City and in Orlando and in San Diego, that gay people come up to me all the time and they'll be like, "What happened to the gays? We used to be fun. We used to be edgy. We used to care about music and dance and being the other." And for a pain, right? It was pain that brought that, because a community that wasn't treated equally, because these people could not get married. Often that internal whatever, that internal pain caused great art, caused great humor, all of those things, and music and all of that. Well, now we're equal. And maybe some of that pain is gone, which I think is actually good, because now we can be treated as shittily as everybody else. But when you're not equal under the law, then you do deserve to be equal under the law. And you might act out differently. So I think people are now seeing that as the progressives have sort of infiltrated the gay community, that gays aren't that fun anymore. So I think a lot of gays are breaking. I think it's a little bit also of what Candace Owens has done with the Black community, so to speak. So there's interesting things happening right now. I'd like to pose the same question you posed to Brigitte Gabriel. What has been the personal cost for what you do? Well, first, let me just say that mostly this is great. It's mostly great. This was the most rewarding year of my life, for sure. Being part of the Peterson tour, getting back into stand-up, as I said, meeting so many people. After the shows, we do a meet and greet. So Jordan does a meet and greet, and I do a separate meet and greet. And sometimes people go to both. And usually about 50 people or so come to my meet and greet. And we get in a small room, and it's about a half hour. And I get to shoot the shit and meet you guys. And people give me gifts and want to hug me. Well, first off, no one can ever believe I'm real because you guys only see me on YouTube, but they want to poke me often. But people say all these great things, and it's so nice. It's so validating, know that you guys are out there. And it's all kinds of people from all walks of life and all that. And it's really fun. And I also do those meet and greets after my stand-up shows, and it's totally fun. So that's all validating and great and good. And, we've built a great business here. And, ironically, the day that we found out this stupid Patreon thing was happening, we had just flipped one of our part-timers to a full-timer. So there's a lot of good things happening. We've got a lot of plans for next year. There's going to be a lot more travel. I think we're going to do more shows on the road, a whole bunch of stuff. I would say the cost part, well, it's not fun reading these articles, right? Like, so if Vox is like Rubin's part of the alt-right, and then 20 blue check, 3,000 follower verified Twitter people tweet it out. It's like, it's not fun seeing that, but it's like, you guys are desperate and pathetic or something. So I don't really care about that much anymore, but I do think about it sometimes. It's like, I get recognized places, and I could be at a restaurant where someone has read one of those articles about me, and they could be looking at me like, Rubin's see that guy over there? Like, he's a white supremacist or some just completely bananas something. Like, so that part's not fun. And I think there's probably been costs. There's probably been some business or professional costs, but I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I think we're building something so cool. And even for the Patreon part of this that is now a problem, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Like, you didn't beat me yet. I've taken big risks in the past. When we got on Patreon in the first place, me and David and Amira, we all quit our jobs, left our health insurance, the whole thing, to join on Patreon just to see if it would work. And nobody really was on Patreon in the political space. Now everyone's on there, but at the time it was mostly video gamers. And I was like, let's try it. And we did try it, and it worked. And it has basically been the engine of the show for the last 3 years or so. So this time around, when this thing happened, I really was like there was a part of me that wanted to do something crazy. Like, I still have that in me. I'm 42, but I guess I still got a little bit of like a crazy 21-year-old in me. And I was like, I should just cancel Patreon. We'll figure it out. Like, it's nuts, but like, I want to stand up for something and blah, blah, blah. And then then I realized I've got employees now. I've got the business has different expenses and things like that. You just can't. Nobody in their right mind just gives up all that rev. But we will figure it out. And as I said, if I can migrate enough people from Patreon, or we can get enough people new people to donate at the site. Again, it's daverubin.com/donate. I'm sorry for being a televangelist here. We'll do it. We'll do it. I want to send them a message. And I want to coordinate some of this, by the way, with some of the other IDW crew. So hang tight on some of that stuff. Is there anything you'd like to refute that has been said about you by your critics? Refute? I mean, yeah, well, I guess I'm not, one of the things that I see from a lot of these, these people, I don't know, critics, giving them a nice term, was that I was funded by the Koch brothers. I am not funded by the Koch brothers. What these wizards are just trying to say is that Learn Liberty was fun. Learn Liberty, that we had the partnership with, which, by the way, every episode of every show that we ever did with them, I said this episode is in partnership with our friends at Learn Liberty. So it wasn't something that I was hiding. Years ago, I think one of the Koch brothers gave some money to Learn Liberty through George Mason University, through a organization called Institute for Humane Studies or something. Anyway, none of that even matters. All sorts of people, you out there, person right now, you probably donate to nonprofits too, right? People donate to nonprofits. Thousands and thousands of people donate to Institute for Humane Studies, and Learn Liberty was just one of their projects. But anyway, that was in like 2012 or something. I didn't start working with them until 2016. Anyway, so people say he's funded by the Koch brothers. And it's like, no, I'm not funded by the Koch brothers. Actually, the person who funded our year of sponsorship, which I said we're not even working with them anymore, and it was a wonderful partnership, and that is no way throwing them under the bus. I loved everybody at Learn Liberty. They let us do whatever we want. Nobody ever said, say this, talk about this, think about this, anything like that. They gave us great professors. We had great shows. We did that President's Week thing last year with them. So it was a wonderful partnership. I just wanted to kind of think about some other things. As I said, they wanted to continue it. I was like, let me see if I can figure out some other interesting things. We've had a nice run with this. But people are like, you're funded by the Koch brothers. And it's like, actually, the person who funded us is an anonymous woman. I only know it's a woman because they told me it's a woman. So if you want to write her a handwritten note, you could write ma'am. So I did write ma'am. in a note to an anonymous person who happened to give the funds that funded us. Anyway, whatever. You know what? I don't mind critics. If you're, look, when people say, well, Rubin, it's funny. People will say Rubin's too much like Larry King. Well, I've had Larry King in here just a couple of weeks ago. He is a friend and a mentor, and the fact that he even thinks I'm halfway decent at this is the greatest compliment ever. So I would say that Larry, if you look at the breadth of his work, is probably the greatest interviewer of all time. So if your criticism is I'm too much like Larry King, that would be like criticizing Kobe Bryant and saying you're too much like Michael Jordan. Like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I don't mind criticism. If you want to criticize the way I question somebody or a follow-up that maybe I missed or some of that stuff, it's all good. I'm not perfect, and I'll always get better. I hope I'll always get better. I'll at least always try to get better. But it's when people just like lie about what I say and selectively edit clips and obsess over me. Like there's like a crew of people that are just endlessly obsessed over what I say. And it's like, I don't even care anymore. It's like, what are you doing? Like, if you wake up and think Dave Rubin's the biggest problem in the world, holy shit, the patriarchy must not be that bad, because this is the worst you got. You got to make videos about me all day. So, whatever. Let's see. All right. So this is a great one. What is the goal, or where is the Rubin Report headed? I'll hold that one to the end because that's a great question. Let's see here. Just check Twitter, Huffington Post, and they have one tweet with 400 retweets today. Everything else is significantly lower engagement. Yeah, I assume that many of my tweets now at this point get into the tens of thousands of retweets and favorites and all that. And it's like they can't have regular people getting more engagement than them, even though they buy all their followers and the rest of it. Deadspin is a sports site, allegedly. They're a sports site? I did not know that. Let's see. When do you think that sports and entertainment sites will finally figure out that we don't want politics in our entertainment? They seem to be losing market share, but they just seem to double down. Great question. Nobody wants to watch ESPN to hear about endless politics. And this is what they keep giving us. And I think Clay Travis calls it woke center. And it's like, man, that shit's boring. Just endlessly talking about politics everywhere. So we have no spaces where we can just be people who watch a game together, or just be people who play a video game together, or shoot hoops together, or whatever. It's like, if we don't have those spaces, we've got nothing left, which is ironic at some level for where I'm at, because I've said this before, but in a way I'm less interested in politics specifically than I've ever been. There's this cultural thing happening right now that's intertwined with technology and entertainment and politics. That's what I'm interested in. Politics alone about what's happening in the Senate today, or Nancy Pelosi might stay on as the leader indefinitely, or Trump met with, it's like, that all just seems like theater to me at this point. And there's just something much more important happening. And that's what I want to talk about. But I also want to talk about the bigger ideas, which is why I just had a rabbi, a priest, and an imam in. Okay, let's see. Oh man, there's a lot of good stuff here. Will you ever invite Jack Conte back on to lie to our faces again? You know what? Let me figure out what's going on here with the Patreon situation, and maybe I would offer him the chair to sit in again. At the end of the day, unless he truly changed, then he lied to me. He said this manifest observable behavior thing. He said on platform. Both of those things turned out to be a lie. So I don't need to give him a platform again. And I'm not thrilled with what's going on with Patreon. And as I said, if we can migrate enough people over, we will make a move. And we've got some other plans, by the way, that I just can't get into everything at the moment in front of all of you good people. Okay. Let's see. Do you think that the left has a difficult time articulating and defending their views? Many of your guests, Peterson, Shapiro, Brigitte Gabriel, have been able to defend their views factually, for example, using Judeo-Christian values. I'm sincerely trying to find opposing views, but I have yet to see a civil interview or better yet, a debate where it's explained with facts, not feelings, and defense of their position. Well, I don't want to say it's impossible. And by the way, I still have good friends, and some of the IDW crew, like the Weinstein brothers and Sam, I think they all still identify as lefties. So I don't think it's impossible, but those guys really are on the outs, right? So it's like, when I do stand up, I usually bring one of the IDW people with me, and it's a surprise. So I've brought, when we were in Salt Lake City, I brought Jordan on stage, which was awesome. And we just joked around for an hour and the crowd was going bananas. That really was an incredible show. If any of you were at that Salt Lake City show, it's amazing. I've brought Brett on, I've brought Eric on, I brought Brett and Eric together. I brought Christina Hoff Summers on. I brought Michael Shermer 2 weeks ago at the Improv in San Jose. And look, I think it's getting increasingly hard to find lefties that will talk honestly. And look, are there some YouTubers? It's funny. This is where they'll go, but there are 5 YouTubers who demand to debate you all the time. Well, you keep talking shit about me and lying about me. It's like, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I'm just playing a different game than they're playing, and they can play whatever game they want. That's fine. And I know that by just talking shit about me, you get clicks. So, all right, enjoy your clicks. It's fine. It's getting increasingly hard to do. And the evidence for that would be, look, it's when I do these stand-up shows, I mean, most of my audience at this point, it's sort of like, I think it's pretty split. It's hard to say. It's sort of, we've got some old school liberals in the crowd, let's say. We've got some libertarians in the crowd. We've got some conservatives in the crowd. Occasionally, there's a couple sort of more lefties. But that, it's a pretty big split. Maybe, if anything, it leans a little bit more libertarian or conservative, which would be absolutely fine with me, by the way. And it's like, I bring on, let's say a Brett or an Eric, and they talk about how Brett's a good example. I bring on Brett. He talks about how he's always been a progressive. He still considers himself a progressive, all these things. And the audience loves him. And he talks about he talks about differences of opinion, and the audience still loves him. Try to imagine that happening at another way. Imagine a comedian that was a big lefty progressive bringing on a speaker who was a conservative to a lefty crowd. How would they treat that conservative? The reason you can't think of any evidence of that is because they would treat them very poorly. So look, this was even when I was at the University of Wyoming a couple of days ago. Did I even say this earlier? I've been talking to the camera all day, so I can't even remember if I just said this or if I just said it to the people before me. People before this was, I did this great talk where I talked about the differences between liberals and conservatives to a group of about 300 kids at University of Wyoming. It was sponsored by Turning Point USA, a young college conservative group. And then at the end, first off, the kids are thrilled that I was there and great applause and everything. But when we do the Q&A, they specifically ask for people that disagree with me first. I mean, there is such a richness right now happening, especially with young conservatives and libertarians. Don't dismiss it. It's not getting picked up anywhere in the mainstream media because they don't like that narrative. They like only the woke narrative. Those are the tolerant people who keep telling gay people to shut the fuck up and black people to stay in their lane. Those are the tolerant people, don't you know? Whew. Okay. Have you made plan B should you find yourself off YouTube one day? Man, it's depressing that these questions are even coming in, but I mean, this is the point. This is the point of the Sargon situation. It's like we have to figure all these things out. Yes, I have had a zillion meetings this week in a zillion different places, and the meetings will continue. We're trying to figure out all of the firewalls. We're trying to figure out how to make sure funding doesn't get cut. We're trying to figure out all this stuff. I can't fully get into all of it now, but we're trying to figure it out. And I appreciate the questions. When's your next LA show? So Jordan and I were just at the LA Orpheum downtown, which was awesome. I brought Shapiro on as a surprise guest. The crowd went crazy. He gave me a cupcake on stage because, he won't bake me a gay cake. So he gave me a cupcake. It was very exciting. Which then I tweeted a picture of that out. And then just the usual, the tolerant lefties. Oh, look at this disgusting display. Rubin is so pathetic for even standing there with Shapiro. And it's like, you know what? I can stand there with someone I disagree with on something, even something pretty damn fundamental, and enjoy it and enjoy a moment on stage of laughter with 3,000 people that are cheering and screaming, despite our differences. But you guys are the tolerant ones. Remind me again. I'm so tolerant. So my next LA show. So we've got 2 things. I'm at the Irvine Improv with a particularly big IDW guest. That's in Orange County on January 30th at the Irvine Improv. You don't want to miss it. I don't want to say who it is just yet. That's the Irvine Improv. And then on, I think, January 9th, I'm at the Ontario, California Improv. I'm pretty sure that's the date. You can go to daverubin.com/events for that. Then I've got 3 gigs with Peterson in January, and then we head off to Australia in February. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss the New Zealand events. I do a family thing in February. That's an annual thing that I really don't want to miss. So I'm going to miss New Zealand, which of course I would love to go to New Zealand and have some New Zealand lamb. I'm having lamb for dinner tonight. Okay. ESPN just announced that they miscalculated about being woke sports, and Clay covered it. It took ESPN about a decade to admit their mistake, but I would still expect SJW thought to percolate through. Well, I would love to know what that means. They admitted it, meaning they issue a statement saying we're not going to keep doing this. I think they're on there. They're crumbling no matter what. It's like the ship has sailed. If you're going to infect your company with social justice, which is not about being social nor about attaining justice, it will cause you to have a problem, and a long-term problem. Look, now I have to figure out what we're doing, but we're hiring right now, and I tweeted out something that said, I'm hiring something to the effect of like, I'm hiring only on skill and expertise. I don't care what gender you are. I don't care what skin color you are. I don't care what sexuality you are. And obviously I'm like, playing a joke on this stupidity. But imagine if I did care about those things. Imagine if I was looking at the resumes and I was like, well, that's a black lesbian. We're gonna give her more of a chance than this qualified other person. Or this is a trans whatever, and this poor straight white guy. Well, sure, he's been in the business for 20 years. He's got incredible reviews and blah blah blah. He shouldn't get the job. Well, would that make any sense? These are the people that are trying to institute racism into the system. The system now basically works. Do what you want. And does that mean that there might be some HR people out there who are racist? Yes, there might be. But is that the government's decision to figure out who should work where and how well, I guess that's what a lot of people seem to want these days. Okay. Let's see. I don't see any other classical liberal doing what you're doing, which is having conversation and explorative conversations with people of different viewpoints. You're very successful. Is it indicative of a hunger in our society to have these discussions? So why aren't more liberals following suit? I asked specifically about liberals because there are many conservative voices talking, even while being censored. That's an interesting question. Look, yes, there's a lot of conservative people doing something sort of similar to this, I suppose. So, Shapiro's out there with an interview show, and Crowder does something, and there's, more people on CRTV and Beck at the Blaze and like that sort of thing, all from sort of a right perspective. Now, maybe that's because they've all been pushed there because they don't get any mainstream coverage, where if you turn on almost every news channel, not only CNN and MSNBC, obviously, but, you watch ABC News or NBC News or CBS News, these are all lefties. Like, do you think any of these people vote Republican or any of these people are conservative? Actually, some of them are probably secretly conservative, but they never even admit it to their friends, and they're getting their, karma's a bitch. But I think that probably has something to do with it. Why aren't there more liberals doing it? Maybe it is the facts over feelings thing, that people on the left, maybe because they go by their heart perhaps more than their brain. So you don't have to think a problem through. You just have to feel something. So I want to help poor people. Let's throw money at them. That feels good. Like, oh, I care about poor people. I want to give them money, give them things. Now I can walk away and feel good. I don't even have to really think about it because the government really did it. I just took money from other people and gave it to these people. I feel good about it. I'm a nice person. Look at me. I'm a nice person. I can go to nice parties. And, oh, what did you do? Well, I didn't do anything, but I supported a candidate who raise taxes so that they could give money to poor people. Now, if you were to say to them, well, these programs often don't work. You keep people in sort of indentured servitude. People don't get off welfare, all of these things. They get very upset because they don't want to have to think things through because they like their heart more than they like their brain, or they operate via the heart more than the brain. I try to do a little bit of both. I would say I'm not that, it's not that I'm not emotional. I'm not that worked up or something like that. I don't know. I guess it has also something to do with why I do it this way. It's like something happened that I didn't expect, which was I was talking about the left from a leftist perspective, from a progressive perspective. And suddenly I was getting an endless amount of hate from the left, which I guess I could have expected. I thought it was a little weird, but I was like, oh, I'm talking about free speech. I'm talking about some of these issues that you guys should care about, but you hate me. All right, that's fine. That wasn't necessarily that surprising. It was a little odd, but not that surprising. The thing that was surprising was that suddenly all of these evil conservatives that the media would make you think are all racists and bigots, and all these libertarians who are maniacs and all this other stuff, they have only been welcoming. I'm telling you, I am meeting the nicest people. I get emails from the middle of the country from Christian conservatives that never heard a liberal not talk down to them. That it's funny. People say, well, see, Rubin's enabling the far right. It's like, actually, I'm getting emails from people that are becoming often more liberal from listening to these conversations. So it's just a certain amount of hysteria. It's all right. All right. We got 4 minutes to go. Let's see. I'll do 2 more. Oh, I'm local and I'd love to work for you. Info on where to submit a resume. We have so many freaking resumes to go through, but you can send it to, I think it's jobs@rubinreport.com. And if that doesn't work, just go to just go to rubinreport.com/contact and you can submit there. But I think it's jobs@rubinreport.com. Let's see. Dave, when you appear on Fox News, do any of the hosts, such as Tucker Carlson, joke off camera about you having your own show on their network? Well, first off, I can tell you I really like Tucker. The 2 that I know the most are the 2 guys that I do their shows the most. Greg Gutfeld, I really know the most, and he's just a good guy. We've got a couple differences that don't matter, but I've enjoyed going out drinking with him in New York City. And he's just he's a nice guy, and he's funny, and he loves being like sort of ancillarily part of the IDW in a way, because he's mainstream. But they did on the 5 the other day, they did their People of the Year, and he was like, he's like Rubin, Peterson, Shapiro, Weinstein, da 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 da. It's like, I don't know if the other hosts have any freaking clue who we are, but like he just is like kind of having fun with this whole thing. So I really like Greg. Tucker, I know a little bit, not as well as Greg, but I really like Tucker. Usually when I do Tucker, I think except for once or twice, we've done it. Like I was on Tucker yesterday, and we do it via satellite. So I just go to a little studio here in LA. It's like a little box. It's like half the size of my studio, and there's just a camera in front of you. And actually what's weird, this is just a little TV thing, they often put the monitor so you can see yourself right beneath you, but it's on like a 2-second delay. So the first time I ever did those things, I think it was on HLN years ago, it's really bizarre because you're hearing someone talk to you, but you're seeing their lips move in a different way, and it can be really hard. So now I always have them shut the video feed. Nobody's really joked to me about that. I mean, I can't tell you every little thing that's going on, but like I'm getting all sorts of crazy offers. That's also why the Patreon thing is weird. It's like, why is this happening right now? Like, I want to stay fan funded. I really do. I want to be my own boss. I don't want to have to change anything we're doing in drastic ways, but we got to figure out the Patreon solution. But if enough people go to daverubin.com/donate, we'll keep on keeping on. Okay. There's a zillion more questions here. We'll catalog some of these because I see there's a lot of good stuff here, and I'm sorry I couldn't get to all of it. But the last question, which I hit on before, which is what is the goal, or where is the Rubin Report headed? Well, look, we just had a great year. As I said, we're going to crash 900,000 subscribers today or tomorrow. And that's despite the fact that tons of you come up to me in real life and keep telling me that you keep getting unsubscribed. YouTube says you're a bot or you're a Russian troll or you don't know what you're doing. But the growth of the channel has been great. I think the content that we're doing, one of the things that I was afraid of during the Peterson tour was I was coming back. Often I'd be traveling for 2 or 3 weeks. I'd come back and we'd have to do, 3 shows in a day. And it's one show I'm sharp as hell. 2 shows I'm pretty damn sharp. 3rd show, I'm kind of like, it's a lot of information to take in, and especially if I was jet lagged or something, I was really concerned that the quality of the interviews was going to suffer. I actually think what we've done this fall, starting with when Shapiro interviewed me, and then the next week we had Peter Thiel, and then we did obviously the Peterson Shapiro thing, this interview that I just did with Rabbi Wolpe and Bishop Barron, that'll be up, the thing with Imam Tawhidi, this interview that we put up this week, by the way, with Chloe Valdary is just great. Get to know this girl if you don't know her. What a wonder, and just like a little sparkle of joy, and someone who knows the ideas and isn't afraid to say what she thinks. Just spectacular. So I was really worried though that the show was going to suffer because of the tour, but I really don't think it did. My one regret, which I mentioned in the live stream last month, is that I don't do the direct messages as much anymore because we don't have the time, and also because we're stocking episodes. So sometimes I tape 3 in a row. The DMs usually are about what's going on that week, so it's hard to tape it 3 weeks in advance. But I've been trying to do a few more of these live streams. I did one right before the election and right after the election. I think I was in UK for one of them and Oslo for the other. And we'll keep doing those things. And I think when we get back eventually to a little more of a schedule, we'll get back to doing more of those. I think what's going to happen in the next year is, look, we're going to figure out a little bit of the business stuff. I think that these issues that we've been tracking related to free speech and tech and the rest of it, they're going to keep ramping up. And who the hell knows what's coming next? Like the Sargon thing is a major move of the line. So I don't know what's going to come next. But we're going to keep building this thing. And I feel great about the conversations we're having. I feel great about the people that I'm meeting. I feel great about the business we're building. I think it's gonna go up on steroids. We're gonna continue the tour with Peterson. I'm gonna do more stand up than I did this year. It was like I got dragged back in. I didn't even want to do it, but now I'm having fun with it, so that's great. I'm gonna write my book, or continue writing my book, I should say. And we're just gonna keep going and going and going. And then I don't know when we're gonna rest, but Emma's resting for us right now. So that's pretty good. And yeah, and that's it. So anyway, this is sort of a bit of an odd live stream, I suppose, because there's a lot going on in all sorts of different ways. But as I try to always say on the Patreon day when I talk to the small groups, I'm genuinely I'm humbled and honored by your support. And if you don't support financially, just sharing the videos and telling your friends about this stuff, and people coming up to me at Whole Foods and the rest of it, it's like we're doing something good. Let's just keep doing it. It can be exhausting at times. I could probably use like a good night's sleep, but like it's all good. It's all good. So I think you're going to really dig Monday's show with the rabbi and the bishop. We've got Imam Tawhidi before the year's out, and oh no, we might be holding that one. I'm actually not sure. And what else? Oh, we're going to do a year-end clip show with some of my favorite moments. That'll be up the week of Christmas. And yeah, some other cool stuff. So enjoy the season, everybody. Happy holidays. Hope you had a happy Hanukkah. Hope you're going to have a Merry Christmas. And oh, I will be in Florida, so I do have one last gig. I'll be at the Turning Point Student Action Summit. I'll be there with Peterson's going to be there, and Kyle Kashu's going to be there, and Candace and Charlie, and Gutfeld's going to be there, and I think Prager and a few other people. So if you happen to be in West Palm Beach, I'm going to be speaking there on the 19th. Yeah, swing on by, come say hi, see what's going on. But I thank you guys for your support all year. We got a couple more shows coming out, so fear not. And all right, I think I'm going to go have some dinner. All right, thanks, guys.